And here we are again. Hi everyone, Craig and Jane, we're live again. Welcome to the show again, Saturday nights now, and tonight we're going to be helping people who are just getting started with an interest in psychic and mediumistic stuff, and some ideas that will also help you to understand a bit about what the ethics, the code of conduct, the type of things that you should be listening to and understanding when you watch a medium, when you go to a psychic, and also if you are a practicing psychic or medium. We're going to tell you all about that this evening after we've said our hellos to everyone, Jane.
Oh, hello, Craig.
Hello to you. And guess who's first?
Agility Bits, hello.
Lovely to see you. I see people are saying it would be nice to see you on the show. A few people in the patrons said that. Nice to see you again. Chandni Prem Anubhuti. You come quite a lot, and I don't know if I've ever pronounced your name correctly on the show. Namaste from Delhi, India. Always looking forward to you two every weekend.
Yes.
Hello
Patrice,
again.
hello again from Germany, Craig. Julie X, hi there from Suffolk, England. Bit worrying when someone puts Julie X. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's not that sort of show, guys. Good evening, my lovelies.
Oh, Lisa.
Lisa says.
Oh, that
Lisa
must be from Cornwall, is it?
A lot of people down Cornwall were saying, "Oh, my lovelies," weren't they,
Yeah.
when we went down there the other way?
Lottie, yay, you just what I need now, sweetheart.
Yay must be American.
Yeah.
Hi from cold, wintry Wyoming.
Oh.
Laurie Owens. That's where you get
Gosh.
your dental floss from, that's according to Frank Zappa.
Deb, hello from Boise, guys. Is that Boise?
Boys, I don't know. Never heard of it, actually. Paulino Gorman is saying hello from Ireland.
Well,
We're just saying, if you're just joining us now, we're just saying our hellos to everybody, just to let everybody get on live, and then we'll start talking about some, like I was saying,
Yeah.
of
And
some of the
Nana
ideas
says,
we
Craig,
said.
hi from just down the road.
Oh yeah, that's from
Totton.
Totton, yes. Further down the road now, because we're based here in Winchester now.
Yeah. AP, hello from lovely Eastbourne.
Hi from Germany, says Nardine Bonatz. Why can't you guys all have nice, easy pronounced names like Hamilton Parker?
Yeah. Lita, hello everyone from Toronto.
Hi there, guys. Nice to see you all coming on. Nice to see many of you coming many times.
And who's this,
Nicolo Avocado.
Hello.
Nicardo Avocado. I always get your name wrong, but I call you Nick. Hello, Nick. Nice to see you again. Nice to, all your comments I see in patrons again. Erin Sullivan. Hello from Southwest Florida.
That's nice. Indigo, hi Craig and Jane from Gosport.
Indeed. We were down there the other day. You got no petrol down in Gosport, I noticed. Completely run out. Hello from Surrey, England, says Oak Tree Man.
Do they have an oak tree woman?
Oak Tree Man. Wow, yes. You live in an oak tree, I presume, mate. Hi, Craig and Jane. Frank and Ava. Ava Hackleton.
Oh, so
nice to see you. See you coming from Facebook too, as well as
Carmen.
YouTube.
A big hello from Orange County, California, and a good morning for me,
Orange
and
County.
a good evening to you from us.
Yeah, Orange County. Never been there. It sounds intriguing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Jennifer Hernandez. Thank you for the show. Hello from Guatemala.
Oh.
All over the place. It's great, isn't it? I love this idea of the internet can connect us
And
like this.
Casey says hello from North Carolina. Hi.
Thomas Turner 69 Grandma. Nicardo Avocado for President 2024.
Definitely.
Damn good idea. Yes, I
definitely.
agree with that entirely. We definitely get the world sorted.
And I can be the first lady, Craig.
Hello from Texas, says Gloria
Oh, that's
Maldonado. Yeah, he'd make a great president.
Yeah.
We need
And
someone of calibre.
Hallie's House 13, hello from Brighton.
It's quite funny. He'd do well, I think. Yeah. Sonette is saying hello from Sebastian, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian, I thought that's where the Charge of the Light Brigade happens. Isabella is saying hello from Poland. I'm not going to try to pronounce the surname sometimes.
And Matt says, hello again from Torquay. Hi, Matt.
Nice to see you again, Matt. A lot of you come in here regularly like this. It's really nice to see you on the show again.
Darren says, hello from Swansea.
Fantastic, in Wales.
Apple, hello Craig and Jane from Switzerland. Looking forward to an interesting evening. Yes, I like Switzerland.
Yeah, hope to get a holiday there sometime soon, hopefully. Nardine, people came from everywhere from the world. It's nice.
It is nice.
It kind of feels a uniting of the world.
It's like a big community family, isn't it, Craig?
Yeah, it's what the internet should be doing, uniting people, not dividing them.
Now, Thomas Turner, 69.
Grandma.
Oh, Grandma. What is this? Thomas. You don't have grandmas called
69's
Thomas.
grandma. Thomas Turner's 69-year-old grandma says, finally some respectability. Nikado Avocado president. Yay! With Ricky Berwick as vice president.
Patty Gordon. Hi, you're a Craig now. Hi, Craig and Jane. I finally got a Facebook.
From Virginia.
So
happy. Yeah, it's nice to see you live. Good to join us. It's also quite good to see the shows after we've been live. We'll put a few compilations
I agree
up
that.
too soon.
Nicola, free food for all.
Yeah, with good one. Absolutely, free food for all. That would probably solve most of the world's problems.
It would,
actually, if you did give free food for all.
And
that
hugs.
was a damn good idea.
And free
actually.
hugs.
Yeah, damn good idea. Free food and water. And most people haven't even got the water. Deb says, are those little cakes on the table yummy?
They are delicious.
We got the same ones last week.
Yeah,
they were so good.
delicious, weren't they?
Hello from Oregon, US, says Dahlia. We're going to get some of those little round ones I like. Great to listen to you two. We don't get time to eat the cakes, talking too much. Suzanne Denise Williams says, hello there, I'm British from Colchester, live in Nebraska, USA. Lovely seeing you both.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys. Your shows are very informative and helpful to those who want to open up spiritually and learn.
Yes.
Hopefully tonight I can give you some new ideas and some other thoughts about that, because we got quite a few ideas that were stimulated by meeting another well-known medium yesterday. Ginger T says, greetings from the USA, lovely to see you both.
How lovely are we, Craig?
Next week there might be 3 of us with luck. Michael Hart saying, when I look around, most people are already XXL, never mind about a medium. I've never heard that one. I discovered I was a medium by looking in my underpants. Michael Hart says, when I look around, most people are already XXL. I've said the same one already. Not quite there.
Your mic.
Oh, my mic's gone, is it?
It's back now.
Okay. Sorry, we lost the mic for a moment. Instead of little voice from the etheric.
It must be those XXLs.
Yeah. So Michael Hart, when I look around, we had that one. Nana.
Nana's keep calm, everyone, and drink tea. Absolutely.
Good idea. I might even start with a little drop of tea.
Cheers, Mr. Parker. Hold it properly.
Warwickshire here. Hi, Craig and Jane, says Teresa. We'll be starting the show soon, folks. We always have a little bit of a lead in to give everybody time to get online and have your questions ready tonight again, because we'll open it up to general questions as we move through the talk tonight. Teresa saying, hi, Craig and Jane from Warwickshire.
Mm-hmm.
So, tonight's theme is going to be all about
Your mic.
my mic. We've got a mic.
Off and on.
We've got a mic problem, guys. Let me just turn the mic on and off. Yep, we should be all right now. Yep.
Yeah.
An etheric hand just gave a thumbs up in the background there.
And a port.
A port. So, right. Where do we begin? Last night, Jane and myself, we went to see a demonstration of mediumship with Gordon Smith, who's a really lovely medium, a lovely man. Had a chat with him afterwards. We were all on the same show together once on the BBC Two Everyman. But one of the people that was handling it there came up to me and spotted us and said, oh, Craig and Jane, lovely to see you. I watched the show, and you might be watching it now. If you are, thanks for the idea. But she said, I always remember you wrote an article about a code of conduct for mediums, about what mediums should and shouldn't do if you're a medium or a psychic. And she said, I read that years ago, and I looked up and thought, just a minute, that was right back in 1995. I wrote that article. So we thought it might be an interesting idea just to talk about that. You won't remember the code of conduct that I did, but I'll read it out and we can discuss each little point.
Well, you remember
if you're
my
okay.
code of conduct then?
Yeah,
Tea time.
Yeah, do the washing up. Don't
You
do
don't
that.
do washing up, you liar.
So I'll have to find it in the book. It's right at the back. But I wrote it up in my book. My first book, actually. My first book, which was the Psychic Workbook. Years ago. I had a royalty in it from it today. It's been going since 1995. It got republished as the Psychic Handbook, just so you know, if you do want to get it. It's out there on Amazon. It's ages ago I wrote it. In fact, on the back, there's a really ancient photograph of me and Jane where we still look like kids. Our hair and things like that. But no, it was quite an important piece that I wrote at the time, and it got quite a bit of publicity because what was the name of the man that was on Crime Watch that we...
Peter Clark.
Peter Clark. I mean, we were talking to him from Crime Watch, and he said, do you psychics have a code of conduct? And I said, well, there's not really anything out there, is there really? I mean, to guide people. So I wrote it, and I wrote it as a number of articles, and I put it in the book in the end. So, some of the things about when people get the psychic gifts, I start to tell people about things like, you know, if you're psychic, you know, you've got to think about the moral side of it, really. Because if you go to do yoga, the first thing, for example, that Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutras is he gives us the yamas and niyamas, which is the do's and don'ts. You know, you first learn the moral code of what you're going to do before you even start doing stretchy bendies on the Hatha yoga or start doing meditation. You have to learn these things, which are basic principles of ideas. Now, psychics don't have that, but some of the thoughts that I put first of all. So, what would you perhaps you could give us an idea what you think about these? So, one of the things I said before I tell you what the code of conduct is. What would you say to if you were new starting as a psychic? What would you say to a person who knew they were suffering from a terminal illness? As a psychic person, what you would advise a newcomer?
A newcomer. Well, I think it's very difficult if somebody's got a mental illness or anything like that. So you can't make promises.
Or a terminal illness, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't make promises.
Because these are the things that people jump into the psychic things nowadays without any real training. I mean, we did years of training within spiritualism, which would hammer home things such as, you know, you don't go predicting a terminal illness to people. As a psychic, you mustn't diagnose. You could actually be sued if you start diagnosing, even predicting pregnancies, you know, because you shouldn't even really, or you should cover it with a lot of caveats if you even suggest something like herbal medicine, because you need to point out very clearly to people that you are not a doctor, you are not medically trained. Same thing with if you're doing anything legal. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not trained as a lawyer. Seek the appropriate advice. But you often see, don't you, Jane, you see people giving all sorts of promises.
Yeah, you've got to be very careful, because if you're dealing with people's health, emotions, legal things, you really got to be careful.
Yeah, and also if you're a healer, of course, too, because, I mean, if you're a healer, you can't go making promises that I can cure your cancer.
No.
You know, yes, you might believe that you can cure the cancer. You might have known already that your healing powers can cure a cancer, but you can't say that because you're breaking all sorts of rules that you could get you in an awful lot of trouble. So these are some of the starting points that I want to point out about if you're doing this type of work, you've got to be very careful. And if mediums start throwing out, you know, oh, I see a dark shadow around you. I remember someone said it to me, didn't they? I was coughing or something like that.
No, she said, I want to go to the person there with a murky aura.
Another one. Yeah.
And that, yeah, and saying what you were in a past life, which you're not meant to do neither. Yeah. Point that out. And then just said, I see darkness around you.
I was thinking of the one we went to a psychic fair, and the guy looked a bit like Yogananda.
Oh, I know. No,
and he said, oh, he won't last long. He's going to die soon.
No, you didn't say you're going to die.
Something like that.
No, you were coughing, and he said, I can see lung cancer around him.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And these are the sort of things that you mustn't go put into people's heads either. because this sort of thing is also very bad, because we have the placebo effect, that we start thinking negative things, we bring it on ourselves. So that's just one of the things. And also another thing, if you're starting out, how would you comfort someone who's severely bereaved?
Well, you've got to have compassion for a start, and it's not easy for anyone that's lost a loved one. It's interesting, like that medium last night was stating, don't be afraid to die. We don't celebrate in this country when people die. You should be joyous that they finish their life here and that, but that's not how people see it. You still have attachment to a soul, and you still have memories to the soul. So you've got to be very, very careful what you say to people.
So just skipping through these last ones, because I get on to the actual do's and don'ts, which is the basic idea from it. But the other ones would be, what would you do if partway through your reading you realise that the sitter suffered from a severe psychiatric problem? And how would you stop them pestering you if they became infatuated with you? Because that quite often happens.
Did happen to
We've
me.
had serious problems with people that have serious mental illnesses, including even a policeman that had serious mental illnesses.
You thought I was an angel, didn't you?
Yeah, thought you were an angel and thought I was the guardian spirit to the angel. Fortunately, he caught it in time, and I think he's a lot better now. But these sort of things happen a lot to mediums, because often people who have a few problems that they can't understand naturally turn to a medium thinking they might.
Well, I would say, Craig, use your common sense in everything that you do. If you come on this pathway, you'll get gut feelings in your solar plexus here, and be very sensible what you do.
Yeah. And then there's other questions too. So supposing the sister is seriously contemplating suicide, what would you do? That's a question that people really need to think and be trained about. So anyway, these are some of the thoughts that I put in the initial book about the don'ts and the do's. So the don'ts, first of all, I always think thou shalt not is much better than thou shalt. Don't predict to death is one of the things that I put forward as one of the main things that a psychic must do. Would you agree with that?
Well, that's right. Even doctors cannot predict a time of a death. They can tell you when the organs are breaking down.
Yeah.
But you mustn't do that.
Yeah, because I think a genuine psychic will know that this is not actually possible, really, to predict a death. I've had one lady...
It's not in our hands, Craig,
No,
anyway.
I've got a number of people that come to me absolutely terrified because some psychic has told them that they're going to die young and things like that, and it's haunted them through their lives, and they're never able to get started properly. The other one I put down is don't play doctor. Right? Under no circumstances suggest someone should go against the doctor's advice. Now, would you agree that's another basic?
I think that's very important, because you could have somebody who's got schizophrenia, and a psychic might have said, come off the tablets, I'll give you healing. They mustn't do that.
Yeah, and that applies both to psychics, mediums and healers.
Yes.
And the other one, this is one I think is quite important that people often forget. Don't be the guru. Because, you have to stress, I think, to people that we're ordinary people, and that the sitter may think we're the only person in the world that can solve a person's problems, don't they? They often, project onto you the idea, like psychiatrists have, of transference, of transferring ideas.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Jane?
Be your own guru, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think you've got to empower people.
Yeah.
Empower people to have the courage to move forward and be their own person, to know that they can take
I can
control.
understand people get very excited when they come on a spiritual pathway, because it's like a baby just learning to walk and take baby steps, and you think, wow, this is what I want and been looking for.
Yeah.
And they're trying to rush, and then they might go to somebody that's not really fully developed or got the gift and telling them a load of nonsense.
That's right. There's a lot of codswallop out there sometimes. I mean, I think what I'm suggesting here is all pretty much self-evident type of stuff, really. I mean, it's pretty obvious stuff, but I think you need to think about these type of things. If you're thinking of going out and being a psychic or a medium or working in a development circle and learning, you need to start thinking carefully about these things. Maybe write them down, maybe get the book, or and have a think about them, and how would you deal with those type of things? Because you're going to encounter all sorts of unusual human situations when you work as a medium. The other one I put down, and see what you think of this one, Jen, is don't make exaggerated claims. You can't guarantee that you're mediumistically communicated with the person that they want to hear from in spirit, nor can you guarantee to solve their problems.
Very important. A medium cannot click their fingers and bring any particular loved one through. Because I even had somebody that said, could you bring Elvis Presley through for me, Jane, because I liked him. It's not possible. It's got to be the person that's connected with them. That could be a relative or somebody that personally knew details and evidential proof.
It's really important, really, because there's an awful lot of misunderstandings, I think, rather than ignorance. There's a lot of misunderstandings about what the power of mediums have. And I think a lot of mediums wrongly sort of play into this idea that I'm like a great guru, I'm better than you, I'm very advanced, I have these high spirit guides and all the rest of it. And I think it's important that, you know, play down all this exaggeration. Try to, if you have higher powers, then you've got to bring it down to an earthly level that an ordinary person can appreciate and understand and move forward with. You know? And this goes on to the next one, actually, which is don't embellish clairvoyance, i.e. keep your evidence clear. If you dry up, stop the sitting. It's no good adding a load of old junk from your own subconscious into a reading.
And sometimes you might get somebody that can be quite difficult. So, and they think if I keep on, she might get me a bit more. So move on to the next person because you're wasting your energy. You're wasting your energy.
I was thinking in terms of a of a private reading, but that's also the case. Yeah. Particularly if you're working on the platform. You're going to get people from
all walks of life, and if the need is great, Craig, then the spirit world will come through.
Yeah. And the other one on the don'ts, before I go on to the do's, is don't force yourself on people. And I got here, there's nothing worse than over-eager psychic that pushes clairvoyance onto people while waiting for a bus, for instance. Some people just aren't ready yet to hear from their long-dead granddad. Do you think that's true? Because you often find that
that is true.
Over-enthusiastic.
As I said before, when the need is there, it will happen naturally without forcing anything. Because you could frighten somebody literally to death. Can you imagine if you were going in a supermarket and you tap somebody on the shoulder and say, I've got your dead granny here, and she's saying to me, you were very wrong doing that, and you're just out buying some tea or bread.
No, not everybody's ready for it. I mean, we might have been living and breathing it for years and years and years, and it seems to us to be just an ordinary part of normal life, and I'm sure a lot of the guys out there, you're all the same, you've been interested in this. But there's a lot of people that are terrified of the idea of spirits and ghosts or any form of clairvoyance or telepathy even. So I'm going to go on to the do's now. There's only a few of them. The do's is instill optimism. Try to see beyond the bad events or better times. Of course, there may be obstacles ahead, but help the person to realise the power of positive thinking. You're useless as a clairvoyant if you only breed despair.
Yes.
Don't you think?
I just feel you've got to be helping somebody, have positive energy, and you've got to have their best interest in life and help them, not put fear into them.
Yeah, that's right. I've seen people go to clairvoyance and they come away shaking at the knees with all these terrible predictions, like things like, you know, you'll never marry happily. All your marriages will end in divorces. You know, and what a thing to take with you. And forgetting, you know, we have free will.
On the other hand, that might not be a bad thing.
That might be
on the other hand.
Good one.
Don't marry.
Another good one. Another one is stress-free will. It says me. A prediction that inhibits a person's spiritual growth is worthless. If, for example, you said to a young girl your marriage will always end in divorce, that's what I mentioned before, they probably would. How could a marriage last if they're subconsciously thinking that it's doomed? Clients may remember things they've been told for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
You know? And I think that's something that's really important because, you know, the power of what you say, when people have empowered you, when you're a psychic or a medium, and they've given you a position of very high dominance in their psyche when they've come to see you. And if you say something untoward that is going to scare the living daylights out of them and leave them with some horrible thing, that can last for years and years and years. And similarly, the true messages of hope, the true messages from the spirit world, the true wonderful things that we can give can also stay with you for years and years and years, and give you great hope for the future. Like, you know, the messages like we've had from mediums ourselves, like Doris Stokes and things like that, that really did see, you know, a path for you. The other one, which is very important for do's, particularly when it comes to mediumship, but also when it comes to psychic work as well, give evidence. Try to give qualifiable facts about the sitter's life or those they know in spirit. Don't talk about woolly future events.
Yes, because a good medium will go to the person, give evidential proof. They should be able to give you names, not always. They should be able to give you anniversaries, birthdays, marriage dates, how that loved one passed, what you've been doing on the earth plane, and not generalities, but specific things.
Absolutely. I mean, it's by this evidence that we stand or fall as mediums. You know, ultimately, it's no good going up there and giving a load of woolly sort of facts so that you could apply to anybody, what the skeptics would call cold reading. That when you say something that has sort of multiple sort of levels of meaning, that could mean anything to anyone, you've got to always dig harder and harder to give real bits of proof. You know, if you hear a name, try to give that name. If you've got the name, see if you can get the surname. If you get the person, try to give a bit more proof about that person. And then you start to build up all these little bits of what we call evidence, which are far more important than the message. Because people are wanting to hear the message, oh, it's all going to be all right. No, but the evidence, you've got to give the proof. And if a psychic or a medium doesn't give the proof, then, you know, what you're doing sat there. Because, you know, anybody could tell you those things. Then the other ones is cultivate spiritual values as one of the do's. Make your daily life part of your psychic work. Try to change your attitudes and develop spiritual good habits.
Yeah, I think if you live a spiritual life and you're a good human being, it's like you could start the day in meditation, and then nice and calmness you need, a clean environment for a start you need, and leave that spiritual life. It's like people don't drink, people might just want herbal tea, or they might, everybody's different, but if you could try and live a spiritual, it doesn't mean sit on a mountain and do 108 ohms or anything, does it, Craig?
No, but it means develop spiritual values. You don't have to follow any set values. You know, if you're a Christian, be a good Christian. If you're a Hindu, be a good Hindu, and so forth. You know, be good to what
Humans.
you know your path to spirituality is, but bring it into your own life. You've got to use your mediumistic and psychic work as a means, not for grabbing more money from people like some of them do, but for actually developing yourself as well. It's a two-way thing. You're helping people, but they've also got to learn from you, and you've got to learn from them as well to develop. I mean, we see some lovely people in our work, don't we? Some absolutely lovely people. And I think that person's a really good example.
And I think another important thing, if you come on this pathway, a medium, it's all about service. And service not only to those on the earth plane, but I believe spiritually, service to God as well, helping others.
Service, which is karma yoga, is a very, very, very powerful path. The other one I put, we've got one more after this, be good humoured.
Yes.
Because try to spread a little happiness with your psychic work. And I think we've tried to do that with our work, haven't we?
Yeah. And I think you'll find most good mediums or spiritual masters, gurus, they all got a good sense of humour, like the Dalai Lama, Sharavana Baba, and people with high energy.
Yeah. Most mediums, most real mediums, usually have a pretty good sense of humour.
Yeah.
And they also sometimes have a bit of a self-deprecating sense of humour. And then they'll also sometimes say, oh, aren't I brilliant? And that's fine too, because that's all done in jest, you know. And I think that sort of not taking ourselves too seriously is really important, as well as projecting sort of compassion and cheerfulness when you work. Because, you know, cheerfulness is a form of compassion. Cheerfulness really is a form of love, I think. It's very important that's instilled in the work. You know, you don't want to go to these Madame Zazas who are looking in their crystal balls and all serious, you know, I see all sorts of strange things ahead. No, it's got to be down to earth, evidential, real. I think we all need to be like that. And just finally, the last one, improve yourself is the final of the do's. Psychic development is a lifelong process. Like an artist that's never fully satisfied with their latest painting, always try to improve on the quality of your evidence.
That's very true, actually, because you think, oh, well, was I good enough in giving that evidence? Because you really, really want to touch people's souls and help them and that. And you know, when you've got good evidence, you feel that you've done your job and that you've helped that other soul that come in front of you. It's very important.
It is. I think all good mediums I've met, they're quite self-critical.
Yeah.
Before you go on to, say, the platform of a spiritualist church, for example, or a stage, I'm always, and I think most I've noticed, they're always a bit nervous because you're thinking, oh, will I do my best? Will I get my best? You know, the ones that aren't are the ones that have got plants in the audience who ask people to bring photographs along to the thing so they can do face reading instead of psychic readings or spiritual readings. You know, the ones that are real, genuine mediums are those that are there who are always a little bit self-critical, that I could have done better, I should have got more for that link for that last lady, and things like that, you know?
Yeah, I can remember the late Doris Stokes always used to get a bit nervous before she went on stage or in the church, and that's the making of a good medium. And
of course, recently, we've got the, we did the thing with the show, it's the Concord Club we've got coming up, haven't we?
Yes. November the 16th.
November the 16th coming up. And on that one, it shows really the power of what we can do as mediums.
Yes.
And what mediumship does for people, that it brings tears to people's eyes. Now, I think Domenico's got a clip we could actually show of the last Concord
Shall we put it on
did.
now?
Yeah, so perhaps Domenico's got the clip, maybe, what we did before.
She's talking about somewhere that gives me a name that sounds like Herbrook.
She's from Pembrokeshire. And
Pembrokeshire, okay. That's
and her name's Jean.
She's talking about a Peter. Is something to do with fish and chips? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I was still here, I'd clip him round the ear. Would you understand that? All right. Okay. I feel he's bringing you flowers from the spirit world, because I feel that very much you sense him at times, because I'm getting out of breath as he's coming through. Would you understand that? Very breathless.
See, the work we do, I think, isn't it? It's so important that you touch people.
The work we do is service, very precious.
Yeah, and I think all the principles that we talked about right back there in 1995.
And don't forget, Craig, we've dedicated our life to this.
Yeah,
we've dedicated our life.
Yeah, it's got to be a thing, like you say, of service. But you know, but we don't often do the theatres. When we do, we try to put our best in for it. And again, as you see there, we're on at the Concord Club in Southampton. If any of you live close enough, you can get to us from London. Live close enough.
And they've got a hotel.
November.
Don't forget, they can.
They've got a hotel at the Concord. Yeah, they can put people up there. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that actually. Yeah, that's true. So there we go. So those are the principles, and hopefully, you know, if you're starting out as a medium and you're working towards trying to become a good medium and really have a real sincere desire to do something good, I think those principles won't take you far wrong.
Now, Matt's asking, what's the difference between a medium and a psychic and a clairvoyant? A medium communicates with the spirit world, so they hear clairaudiently, clairvoyantly they're seeing, clairsentience and that, and they're there to give a message. A psychic can be many things. They can see people's auras, they can see certain things, or they can help people. A clairvoyant is clear seeing, which is a French term for clairvoyant. So a clairvoyant will guide you, and the rest is up to you to use your free will, I would say.
Now, I would say psychic and clairvoyant I put as the same, pretty much, actually. Well, you see, the definitions are, but the thing is, if you know what a medium is very different than telling you about your life and your life path and what's going to happen in your life, for example. A medium gives evidence, proof, gives information about the person in the spirit world. So what we're basically doing is proving the continuation of the human personality after death. So that's what a medium's job is. And a medium usually, when you're doing a mediumistic thing, doesn't usually give predictions, you see. That's separate. That goes into the world of clairvoyance and psychic, which is much the same thing. It's just different words for much the same thing, I call it. And so often when Jane and I do work, we try to distinguish between the two things, don't we? We say, what do you want, a mediumistic reading, or do you want a psychic reading? Because we don't really like to mix the two.
Yeah, because certain people
really
said, I'd like both. I said, we can't do both because we've got to meditate half an hour before you arrive. To give
I like to keep mediumship to proof of life after death. And although the spirit world they don't tell you what you've got to do. They don't say, you must do this. They kind of try to give you a nudge in the right direction, but this idea of free will is very much involved. So you've been given a nudge in the right, and it's up to you if you take that path or not. You can't really as a medium say, that's going to happen. I know we do a bit of prediction work and it's popular with you, but ultimately there's this free will behind it all. This free will, which is really the key to happiness ultimately, because you have the choice to control the way the future
It's very
goes.
interesting island. Oh, excuse me, I've got to put the glasses on. The power of suggestion is so strong. Vulnerable people will believe a fake psychic and it could ruin a vulnerable person's life. They told fake. No, that's absolutely true actually. Because it's like there's a lot of fake psychics out there. They're just after the money. They don't care about people. They might say, I see 100 people a week. You couldn't possibly, could you, if you're doing it properly?
Well, you wouldn't. If you're properly tuned in, you'd be exhausted.
Yeah.
And we, in our own work, we've often seen cases, haven't we, of people. I mean, when you first start to get interested in it, when we're first developing your psychic skill, I went to see a lot of mediums and psychics, good and bad. I saw some of the very best, and watched some of the very best. Watched Gordon Higginson, saw Doris Stokes, private consultations with Doris Stokes. Peter Close was brilliant, Bill Landers was brilliant, Mary Duffy, all these great mediums that had great information to give you. And then also amongst it all, saw some real crackpots and charlatans. And at first you don't know the difference, because you think, oh, well, surely they're a medium too. They must be just as good as what Doris was, wasn't it? But actually they're not. You find out that they're misguided. They might mean well, they might think they're a medium sometimes, but they tell you things that really could misguide you. And that's why you've got to be discerning. You've got to remember your free will, and don't go to someone thinking you're going to do it all for me, you're going to wave a magic wand and make everything good for me, because that's a recipe for disaster. Go there to get some guidance so that you can forge your own path through life.
Well, there could be, certain people out there, say the psychic or mediums, misleading people. But I always think, Craig, at the end of the day, it's best for people out there to find out for themselves.
Yeah, I think with mediumship and the psychic world, it's necessary for you really to go and see quite a few mediums and psychics, but don't go spending fortunes. A lot of the time you can see lots of them in a spiritualist church where it's all for free. You can watch the mediums for free, certainly here in the UK and in Australia and America, the spiritualism out there. But even if it's not, it's good to see many people. Like a bee goes to many flowers before it makes its honey, but you have to sometimes there's poisoned honey out there too. So you've got to look out for the truth. You've got to be discerning. You've got to learn to discriminate between what's a truth and what's a falsehood. Because there's an awful lot of crackpots out there and an awful lot of charlatans, but there's also a few gold nuggets of really good mediums and psychics, and if you can find the right ones, then that can be life transforming in a positive way. Doris Stokes, shall I read it?
Yes.
Doris Stokes mentioned a warning to budding mediums not to let ego and pride get the better of them. It could hamper their mediumistic work and the links.
Very true.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Well, once the ego comes in, and once you've got to be a bit humble to be a medium.
And you've also got to be a bit of a showman and a bit of bravado too. You know, you've got to say, yeah, I'm brilliant, aren't I? Aren't I good? You know, when you're doing a demonstration.
Craig has
and
no
people are-
Craig has no
I have no
problem with
problem with
that.
that, no.
Craig has no problem.
But I think you have to too, you know. But I think the audience, and I think people that know you well, would know that, okay, he's only mucking around.
Yeah.
And you've got to encourage people, you
And
know, it
another
wasn't
thing,
that good, you know.
you've got to have confidence, and you've got to project yourself, and you know what you're doing is the truth, and you know that what the work you do is very precious.
Yeah, and at the same time, a deep humility.
Yes.
And that's what and Doris Stokes had all those qualities that
Well,
I mentioned there.
when
in
Doris
that
Doris Stokes, she wasn't really looking for it. Somebody went along, Laurie O'Leary went along to a spiritualist church, and because his wife said, "Oh, you want to see this medium? Fantastic!" And he thought, "Oh, I'd discredit her."
Yeah, Laurie
And-
O'Leary had been
yeah.
dealing with the Cray twins
Yeah,
and
and
everything
she-
before.
Yeah, and Doris actually brought his mother through and gave the name, and he was absolutely gobsmacked, and he thought, well, I've managed pop stars and everything, and I'll take her on board and put her in theatres and that. Do you remember? And,
yeah, I remember.
and actually, she didn't think the money from that was a bit like me and Craig. She used to go and give to underprivileged children, the Variety Club, and very much a foundation like we've got.
Yeah,
so
she
you've
had
got
the
to give
same
something
idea,
back.
didn't she? In
Yeah.
fact, she gave all those coaches and things like that,
Yeah.
and Doris was also a little bit innocent, a little bit naive actually, because
sign
you know she
contracts.
had no money in the end, did she?
No.
I mean, they auctioned all her stuff off when she
Yeah.
died, and
Just paid
it
for
was nothing.
taxes.
There was nothing there, and yet she was filling the Sydney Opera House, and a lot of people were coming along
advantage.
and leeching off her and taking all of it. But and I think often spiritual people, I think it sometimes has to happen to their life that they have to go through a bit of a difficult path like that. But she was a beautiful lady. Thank you, Indigo, for mentioning that one to us, because I think that's a good, and it
Yeah.
affects the links too. It affects the quality of your clairvoyance if ego's in the way. You know, you've got to be open, honest, and open yourself to spirit, haven't you? You've got to let spirit world do the work and not your own ego.
Ireland said Doris Stokes seems so down to earth from YouTube videos and kind. I'd have loved to have met her. Do you call on Doris to help you when you do readings? Well, Craig and I sometimes do feel Doris Stokes around us, because John Stokes gave me and Craig to get married at Bitton Spiritualist Church, and he used to come to our house to do healing, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's a very good healer.
And of course, most recently, we've been
Linda
also
Dearsley.
doing our shows. Linda Dearsley, who's written a lovely new book about Doris Stokes,
And we're in it.
and we're in it as well. So go and look it up. And she's sort of followed up some of the stories from the original Doris Stokes books. I mean, you find all those quite often in the second-hand shops and things, and they're still published, some of them. But she's written a new one, and it's well worth looking out for. Go and have a dig around to find it. And she works with us sometimes. We haven't asked her yet, but we hopefully might be able to get her on the show this time
Got
round.
such a lot of planning when you do shows.
So there's a lot goes into it, and basically we do feel her around us sometimes, particularly when the three of us is gathered together. The lights flash and things like that, and I'm sure Doris is there, perhaps helping us along the way a bit, and probably helps other mediums too sometimes. Certainly had a lot of influence upon our lives, didn't
Yes,
she?
yeah.
You know, she was a great, and a lot of influence upon a lot of people. She really, when it said about early on about people remember it all their lives, I mean, the things she told me, I did remember all my life, everything.
Do you want to do this one?
So Thomas is saying, so do you see different scenarios when people choose their decisions? Okay, this is talking about free will. I think he's talking about here. When people say come to you, do you sort of say, if you do this, that might happen. If you do this, that might happen. If you do this, that might happen.
I think you can only guide people, and they've got to take the path they must decide at the end of the day. You can guide people, but the rest is up to them.
Yeah, I don't think the future is fixed. I mean, you can see things that happen in the future, but if certain things happen, otherwise, if the future was completely fixed, we'd be in a right fix, wouldn't we? Because there's nothing we could do about anything. We might as well not bother. We might as well not try to change the world. We're just on an out of control train that's heading to disaster. But it's not like that. we do have free will, and although a medium can see the map ahead, or the psychic side of the medium can see the map ahead, it doesn't mean it's set. It doesn't mean that that's the way the world has to be. We might see something coming, you know, we might see war with Taiwan like we were predicting at the beginning of the year. We might see things like that, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the case, because collectively and individually, particularly individually, we can redirect our destiny in the direction that suits us better.
Now, Erin says, how do you find a spiritualist church? Well, if you just tap in on Google and just wherever you live and just put spiritualist church, it should come up.
Yeah, their website, I can remember their website address because it's SNU, which sounds awful.
Yeah, but she
because it
might
sounds
not
like a
live in
disease.
England.
snu.org.uk for the UK. But if you, in your own country, you can even find the spiritualist churches on Facebook have got their own pages. Just type it in Facebook, so when you start finding your local ones, and type, and there's most, in the UK, it's surprising how many there are. When I first went into spiritualism, I couldn't believe there were many of them. They're all a bit run down, they're all a bit stuck in the past, because they sing hymns, for example, on a Sunday, and I think, oh my God, that's going to drive away anybody that's really young and looking to start. Who puts hymn numbers up and all sings hymns? Even the Christians don't do that now. But nonetheless, despite that, it's still worth having a look, because if you can forget about all that nonsense and you go in and you watch the demonstrations and you listen to the mediums talk, and you might even enjoy that side of it sometimes as well. But if you can, if it could modernise, oh, it would be so wonderful. But they can't. It never seems to have that ability. But the mediumship there can be sometimes pretty good, and sometimes it can be dreadful, because you've got all types of mediums. But at least you know the people you're dealing with there are sincere, because they veto people and they're not going to let someone go in there that is a charlatan, you know. So there's so hopefully it's a good thing, but it's not like a religion in the normal sense, though, is it? It doesn't thrust beliefs on you. What do you think about shamanism?
I think it's a good thing.
Is that it?
That is it. That's all I've got to say. No, it's good actually, because we've got some friends in Switzerland that actually had a shaman that stayed with them.
Oh, wasn't that a funny story? Yeah, and he lived under the table, didn't he? Playing a drum. They looked after him, and he was from Mongolia, and he actually needed to live in a tent, so they put him under the cloth, under the table, and he lived under the table. But shamanism is very ancient and very, I suppose, it's very close to nature. Really, I think it's the original. It's the original. Religion, really, I suppose,
of nature.
And I definitely think shamanism is something we could all learn a lot more from, because we're so out of touch with the forces of nature. And I'm not just talking about wind and rain and things, but the etheric element of nature, the life force of nature, the spirits and spirit of nature. So I'm a great fan of shamanism, and I think there's a lot of it gets a bit carried away with the fairies again, because literally some people I've spoken to some people from California and things, and I think yeah, but this has just gone into the realm of total fantasy, and you've gone far too off left field here. So I think you've still got to keep your feet on the ground, you've still got to keep your common sense. But I think there's a great deal that we can learn from shamanism, a great deal, and it's something that, if it appeals to your nature, then it's a wonderful thing. But it's like all of it, we've got to keep our common sense. We don't want to throw our reason out, but we've got to go in with our eyes open with all things, including, if you're taking shamanistic medicines and hallucinogenics, again, one has to be very cautious about where you're letting yourself in for, particularly when there's a lot of commercialism that goes on with these things nowadays. You going to read that one, James?
I suppose so. Deb says, I don't like when someone scares someone into thinking some dark force is ruining their lives and they want it removed. You can't do that. It's wrong. You take people's power to heal away and frighten them to death. Well, nobody can do hexes or do black magic on you if you don't receive it, can
Yeah,
they?
and
You have none attachment
This
to
is
it.
the ultimate in disempowering people,
Yeah.
really, isn't it? I mean, it's a really bad thing. I mean, we've had it on this channel. You've seen people come in here from Nigeria and things in the comments trying to jump in and say, you
After their
know,
money.
private message me. And then they start giving you all these hexes that, and somebody's sending you, some evil woman is doing an evil curse on you and you've got to lift that curse. And woe betide, easy done. All we have to do is pay him loads of money and they light some candles and do a chant, you know. So it's a rip-off.
Tell me, Craig, is that why you've got candles behind you?
Yeah, this is to get rid of all the hexes. Yeah. But it's true though, you know, people will really play on a person's vulnerability. So I think, you know, that type of frightening people with dark forces is frankly the evil is in the psychic themselves. It's supposed to be there to be the healer, the shaman, the one that lifts you up, lifts you from it. You know, I mean, those fake people that do that, and there's a lot of it around, and there's been a lot of it also since we've had people from many countries coming, for example, here into the UK. There's been an awful lot of strange superstitions that have been brought in that have been now put onto the web and exaggerated. And I think you've got to be very, very careful about all this idea of anybody that can lift spells and hexes and things. That ought to perhaps be another don't get involved with offering to lift spells or anything like that, because most of that is just purely in the world of misconceptions and misunderstandings.
What happened to Harry Potter?
Yeah, yes, that was another bad thing. Harry bloody Potter. The problem with that is that, you know, we used to call them the Harry Potters on the chat rooms when we had the chat rooms on the Delphi Psychic site when we had it. Yeah. And we used to get these people that come in and they'd be telling us all this stuff about their experiences, and we listen to it and think, just a minute, this guy's talking about Harry Potter movies, you know. These are the Harry Potters. And people do tend to take things, they see a movie and they take it a bit too seriously. You know, you watch V in the 1960s, the movie, and you start believing there's reptiles everywhere. You start watching, and you start realising that the same things happen nowadays with Harry Potter, hasn't it? You know? So, yes,
I used to like
there's a
that
lot of
V.
misconceptions out
I
there.
used to like that V.
Do you remember it?
Yeah,
it was
I
a real
do.
oldie, wasn't it? But they scratched the skin and they find that there was a
Yeah, it was
lizard
good. It's
skin.
great
on it.
in its
They were
time.
pretending to be humans, you know, and they were pretending to be the royal family in that one too, I
Do you
remember.
want to answer, Matt?
Is it true that spirits are made up of substance of which it's impossible to hug and embrace, impossible to hug and embrace our loved ones? Muriel Ford Clark, an Irish medium, said this recently on a podcast.
Is he talking about ectoplasm?
Well, there's two things there. The spirit, I think you could not really hold the spirit in the same, it's like an etheric energy, like the spirit you saw that time that left the spirit of Ron when he died. But then there's also been this physical medium thing that had happened in spiritualism, in which we get a thing called ectoplasm. You can see it in Ghostbusters and even started. But there is an actual substance that oozes off the medium and can actually form into a physical form. And there's been cases, and you can see some of these moulds in spiritualists at Stansted, I think they've got them, which is the head, where the spirit materialized the hand in space, right, and it formed out of ectoplasm that formed off the medium's body, and then the spirit hand went into the big hot tub of wax and then dematerialized like that and left a mold which you could see was an actual human hand with different fingerprints to anybody that was in the circle, for example. So some interesting, also sometimes very contentious, and also there's been a lot of fraud there as well with a lot of those type of things, unfortunately. So it's very hard to separate the truth from the rest. But it seems that the spirit can actually, it's not impossible to hug, that sometimes the spirit can form in such a solid form that they're as real as a human being. But because of the dangers of possibility of trickery in the past, and we've seen trickery with people pretending to be physical mediums, so I have to put a lot of caveats on all that. But nowadays it was always done in pitch black, but nowadays of course we have cameras that can film in pitch black, and the spiritualist circles that are looking to do physical mediumship again, I have these cameras in the circle rooms so that it can be captured with pitch black, and so you can still do that, but you know, we hopefully one day will have film of it, and that I think will be the ultimate proof that it's real or not. But so far we haven't got that evidence as far as I'm aware.
Island, very few things in life are set in stone. Gut instinct, intuition is a good indicator, true. Everyone has had at least one experience in their life connected to a feeling. But I think it's very important. It's like if you meet somebody the first time, get from the solar plexus here what you sense with somebody, and you won't be far wrong. I use it all the time.
Yeah, islands there also really, I think, also indicating that we all have intuition, don't we?
Yes.
I mean, this is something that shows that we have flexibility, that not all of us are completely stuck in a rational black and white world, and that intuition can be a very, very powerful thing. It comes through dreams, and comes through creativity, and it comes through meditation and psychic work. You know, it comes in many, many ways. Inspiration. And we all have those qualities, and that's what links us into the other world, as it were. So, last questions, guys. Oh, good gosh, is that the time?
Yes, don't you talk a lot, Craig? Time
Well,
flies.
we've been going on for quite a while. At the end, we'll have to show that clip again if you're interested, just so you can see it again at the end. So these are going to be your last
that's
questions.
good.
Jane likes everybody to come on Instagram.
And I
She
will
was
get
saying
back to them.
We forgot to put Instagram up last time. So Jane interacts with you quite a lot on Instagram. That's her favourite area of interconnecting with you. And if you want to connect with me and Jane, of course, any time, become a patron. And next week, hopefully, if all being well, we're going to have one of the patrons come on with us, and we're going to have 3 seats here, and we're going to have a sort of a chat. And you're welcome, you know, particularly the patrons, so you can get in touch if you want to come on, or if you've got a really interesting something you'd like to share with us, an interesting experience, an interesting expertise of some sort. You know, we'd have you on the show, and we've got a few other people we've been contacting. So we hope to get a few guests, which I think will take things up an interesting notch. So those things are coming. Hopefully for next week, we might start the first one with that. So it's your last questions now, guys, because we're coming to the end of the show very soon. The big question. I think Trump is going to pull it off, actually.
I think he will.
Yeah, I think he will pull it off in the end, because I think he's got a lot more up his sleeve, and I think, like I've said in some of my other videos, I put a lot of the a bit more radical type of videos up sometimes when I do my little live ones sometimes. But I think he's got something big. I get the feeling he's onto something with a corruption scandal of some sort, and I think he'll throw something out there soon. Yes, I think he's going to do it. Actually, yeah, I've told you. Are illnesses such as cancer and heart disease all a lack of spiritual consciousness in an individual?
Not really. It's all to do with karma, isn't it, Craig?
I think all of us carry karma. That's
from
probably
previous incarnations.
And that probably might come out as illness.
Most of these people that you see that have had cancers and things, they bring a lot of compassion out and love for other people to learn from.
Because karma's not all about punishment.
No.
Karma's not all about reward. Karma's all about helping us to quicken our spirit. And I think sometimes the worst things happen often to the most sensitive and the most spiritual and the good people, because those people are here to be quickened in this life. And if you think about it, the things that really push you forward in life are not the easy sort of things, it's the hard things that turn us into who we really are. Can a positive mindset and self-care of your help cure illness?
It's always good to be positive, whatever illness you've got, to overcome anything. Positive mind, positive attitude, and never give up when you have an illness.
In fact, I would go further to say that I'm a great believer, you know, they talk about the placebo effect, that sometimes you can almost trick someone into being well by telling them something that makes them feel like they're going to be well, you know. And I think we can trick the unconscious mind into making us well sometimes, because I think the brain has all the chemicals we need to conquer just about everything in the illnesses of the body. We have the power to restore ourselves. I don't think we've evolved to a point where we've completely got control of that yet, but I think we have the capability of perhaps tapping into it, and a very high level soul might one day be able to self-cure themselves and self-heal themselves. So we're still at an early stage of evolution with it, but I think if we think positive, it tells our body's system to make ourselves well. And I think it goes a long way that your mindset, if you're positive about ill health, it's the best way to overcome it. It's good positive thoughts about being well for yourself and towards other people, because the power of thought and the power of healing can also transform other people as well as yourself.
Now, Jamie, Baby, Cardo, thank you both for a great show. Thank you for watching, guys.
Yes, thanks for coming again, guys. It's nice of you to all
Joanna.
join us. Love and hugs to you both. Thank
Joanna
you for
Johnson.
your time.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Joanna.
And thank you for tonight. And thank you for your questions too. Some nice, interesting, sensible questions people have been asking us tonight.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Easy to answer ones.
Thank you, Jane Hampton, Craig and Parker,
Except
for
the
another
Trump
great show. Thank you for tuning in, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for all of you that come regularly too. And to anybody
Thank you,
new.
Thomas.
And if you're here for the first time, don't forget
Jennifer,
to subscribe to the
great
channel.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And leave some comments when we finished too. Come back and leave some comments, because
Oh,
people
thank you.
find it interesting.
Thank you, Laurie. That's nice of you. Very sweet. Frank, have you heard of Australian what?
Austin Osman Spare.
No, have you?
No.
Answer.
That's it.
Island. Thank you,
you.
Jane and Craig, for sharing your time with everyone. Another wonderful evening of conversation. Thank
Yeah,
you, Ireland.
Thanks.
God
And
bless
thanks,
you.
if you didn't all join in like this, it wouldn't be conversational. And I think it is nice,
Yeah,
the
it's
interaction
great.
with you all.
Did you have a vision about who?
Biden dying.
He won't be around very long, guys.
Yeah, I think I feel there's much the same.
Do you know
I-
what? If I look in his eyes, and some of you won't like this, I see snake eyes.
Yeah, he's like a gunslinger's eyes, like that Van Cleef.
Gunslinger?
Do you remember that gunslinger? I think it was Van Cleef. I think it was the
No,
gunslinger.
he's a lot younger than
Oh, you know, he was a lot younger. Yeah, he was about 80 or 90.
Think
Yeah, he was a
of
lot
V.
younger. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, cancer has happened to the most lovely, wonderful,
Yes.
magical persons I know. Love and peace everywhere.
Yeah.
And I bet they're the
Oh,
strongest people you
namaste.
know too.
No.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Namaste. Yeah, I think it's so true. That big hugs. Have a lovely weekend.
And you, it's
Yeah.
nearly over our weekend.
Yeah, it's Saturday's
Jennifer,
nearly
have a
gone.
blessed weekend.
Oh,
And
our
you-
weekend's preparing for this. Thanks, Greg. And Domenico, of course.
Yeah,
he's always
Domenico's
in the background
important.
there. You heard him talk about my
couldn't do-
thing, and
we couldn't do
Domenico
this
did
up.
all this lovely editing for the
Yeah.
little clips from the Concord Club last year there too, which I
This
think you'll
year,
see
Craig,
again.
what
Yeah, we're
was it?
coming up this year. We got the Concord Club. You can
Yeah,
see
we've
us.
done it
Don't
this year
forget.
as well. It's the
There'll be a
second
link
time.
in the description below to go and get your tickets at the Concord. Or just type Concord Club Southampton to get your tickets. There were some interesting questions tonight. Thank you for a great show and have a lovely weekend.
And you,
down there in
Agility.
Cornwall. This was a topic needed. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it is an important topic actually, personally. A brilliant
Okay.
show. Thank you, Jai Sai Ram.
Jai Sai Ram.
And some of those things we talked about can apply to healing.
Oh, that's
can apply
nice,
to
Mark. Thanking
psychics, to
Domenico.
mediums.
Yeah, all thank Domenico
thank you,
because he's
Domenico.
important.
Yes. Yeah.
Very important.
We love
to us.
Domenico. He works so hard, laughs behind the scenes a lot too.
Yeah, he does
Indeed.
work
Yeah,
hard.
he's a lot of work, and he's a very busy person too in his normal life. Very, very high-powered job. Thanks, Domenico.
Oh, that's nice.
good
Yeah,
to
that's
see.
good.
Yes, Domenico does a great job.
He does. Yay.
Domenico's pressing the
Promiscuous.
answers. Domenico, actually. I think. Yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us again tonight. And we're going to say goodbye to you all now and say bye for now.
Bye. Stay safe.
She's talking about somewhere that gives me a name that sounds like Herbrook.
She's from Pembrokeshire. And
Pembrokeshire. Okay. That's
and her name was Jean.
She's talking about a Peter. Something to do with fish and chips? Does that make sense?
If I was still here, I'd clip him round the ear. Would you understand that? All right. Okay. I feel He's bringing you flowers from the spirit world, because I feel that very much you sense Him at times, because I'm getting out of breath as He's coming through. Would you understand that? Very breathless.
Would you like to know more about the paranormal world? Craig Hamilton Parker's books are now available on Amazon. Explore the future. Discover what happens after death. Unlock the secrets of your dreams. Learn to develop your own psychic skills.